Hey guys, Brian here. I get asked all the time, what's the best work shoe or boots for our industry? As some of you probably know, I absolutely love wearing the Cujo Yardwear. A few years ago, I was wondering why there isn't some sort of light, functional shoe for the lawn care industry. Literally a couple weeks later, I get a message from this new company, Cujo Yardwear, letting me know about the new shoe they created for lawn care. I couldn't believe it, so I tested them out for the first year and have been wearing them ever since. Me and my guys love the Cujos because they are light, comfortable, they keep our feet dry and have a great grip, and they're breathable. Plus, they're a family-owned company. Sean and Kelsey are a brother-sister team that seriously care about offering the best products for our industry. They started with the yard shoes, came out with the Wixom composite toe boots, and are launching a new slip-on shoe this year. Check them out at Cujo.com. That's Kujo.com. And don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10%.
You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no-nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about running a successful lawn and landscaping business and talking about just entrepreneurship in general on today's podcast, a little mindset kind of topic here that I wanted to talk about. This actually stemmed from a conversation that I had with a really good buddy of mine and a really good buddy of a lot of your guys as well, Andrew Martinez with Lone Star Lawn Care and the Lone Star Lawn and Landscape podcast. And Andrew and I were talking maybe last week, what was it, Andrew? Wednesday or Thursday? About how do we do it all? How do you manage it all? How do you run the podcast? How do you run the lawn care business? How do you run family life? How do you just do everything, right? And so the reality is all of us right now, we're in the thick of it, right? Some of us are getting over the spring rush and kind of into the summer, dog days of summer and just kind of the rinse and repeat type work. Although tons of creative things still to go on and do and through your business this time of year. But at the same point, a lot of us are over the spring rush hump where it's just 8, 10, 12 weeks, all hands on deck, 6 and or 7 days a week worth of work, right? Did a couple coaching calls this last couple weeks, and almost everybody I talk to is, hey man, I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. How do you manage it all? Myself included, by the way, I'm working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, running the company in the field. We're doing double cuts, spring rush. This last week we had like 2 different days that had 2 inches of rain overnight. The lawns are just soaked. They're saturated. We're trying to edge. It's just creating a mud, slop fest along the curb line and the edge line. And it's just taking time, right? So the reality is like all these pressures are weighing down. All these events take time. There's so much work to do. Now, we're making money. A lot of us, we're bringing in a lot of gross sales. But at the same point, we're like, man, this is a lot. This is a lot. Entrepreneurship it seems to be a little bit more than I thought it would be out of the gate. And I've talked about this on previous shows over the last year or two that we've had the podcast. And it's almost like nobody told me that. Nobody told me it would be like this. Nobody told me that it would be 80-hour weeks. Nobody told me that one day I'd have 20 grand in the checking account and the next day I'd have $20,000 on the credit card. Nobody told me that employees would call off. Nobody told me that employees would quit when I needed them most. Nobody told me that equipment would break down as much. Nobody told me that customers maybe weren't as understanding or graceful or forgiving as maybe we would have liked. Nobody told me that it would stress my health. Nobody told me that I would put on 5, 10, 20 pounds worth of, belly fat and stress. Nobody told me that it would cause some strife in the marriage. Nobody told me that it would tax my relationship. Nobody told me. And I get that. It's one of those things where over time, I've learned these things myself. When I first got started in my lawn care business, I was single as a Pringle, I think my wife said once. And we were talking about Paul Jameson at the time, a little joke there. We were single as a Pringle, and I was just cutting grass. And it didn't matter if I worked 20, 30, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 80 hours a week. Honestly, it didn't matter if I worked a 4-hour day, an 8-hour day, a 12-hour day, frankly, a 16-hour day. There's times here in Michigan, this time of year, where we can cut grass from arguably 6:37 in the morning till arguably 9 o'clock at night. And you could literally have a 12 or 14-hour day. But you know what? As you get older, you have more responsibilities. You maybe want to have a work-life balance. Other priorities change, right? Priorities change in general. You have family time. You have kids. Softball becomes more important than 3 extra yard mulch job and making $150. You'd rather see your kid, hit a base hit and get to first or second. And that's much more important, in my opinion, as well, to prioritize that than just maybe making money. Although money translates to choices and options. So there's a balance. There's a catch-22. If you choose one, you have to give up the other. If you give up one, you have to chase the other. And do you want the money or do you want memories? It's just, nobody told me that. Nobody told me I would be in 100 different positions every single freaking day, let alone every hour. And sometimes by the minute, right? It just seems like chaos. It just seems like calamity sometimes. And I wanted to just take a couple quick minutes here and talk to you guys on this Monday morning that, number one, I hear you. Number one, I can relate. Number two, number three, I should say, I don't ever want to paint the picture that it's easy. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me this. I was talking with Andrew and he's just like, hey, how do you? And I'm like, how do you get it all done? He's like, yeah, how do you get it all done? And I'm like, you just do. You just figure it out. And so here's a little mindset. Here's a little attitude is entrepreneurship. It's tough. It's 100% tough. And no, nobody gives you the full picture. Just like nobody tells you when you're going to have kids, what it's really going to take to have them. Because if they did, nobody would ever have kids. The population would literally end. I've got single friends. We've got couple friends. Actually, my brother and sister-in-law are pregnant, which is super exciting. And they have they already told us what the sex is of the baby and all this fun stuff. And we couldn't be more happy. We couldn't be more excited. But you know what? There's things that we're telling them that they can expect. And there's also things that when we talk to them, it's almost aloof. It's almost like we leave a couple things out. We omit maybe the reality because they're dealing with enough stuff at the current moment that they have to work through, right? I'm not going to give them level 404 coursework in college when they're only a 101 student, right? And so, for example, Liz and I were like, hey, this is something that we could suggest or maybe look at this or consider that. They're like, oh, yeah, this, and this. And sometimes people take your advice, right? Sometimes people don't take your advice. And they take our suggestions quite a bit because we're fresh into it, 12, 18 months further ahead of them in the baby category, right? Just having a newborn baby. And they're about to have a baby here in 6-7 more months. But at the same point, there's nothing I could tell them at where we're at, with a 10-month-old that's going to perfectly set them up for success. We can give them perspective. We can give them ideas. We can give them some suggestions. Say, hey, watch around this corner because there might be some concrete work in the city and there's a big hole there and you don't want to fall into this around the corner. Don't just walk and run around that corner blindsided. You might trip up. You might fall down a hole. There might be a wet puddle there that you want to avoid. Right. So that's what we do with the podcast. That's what we do with the YouTube channel. That's what we do with our Instagram posts. That's what we always try to do on coaching calls or emails or DMs or texts. We try to just relate and help and just give perspective. But here's what I will say. All that being said, it is tough. It is tough. You've entered a war zone. You've signed your Declaration of Independence. A friend of mine, he called it his Declaration of Independence, your LLC paperwork. You're in business for yourself. What did you think was going to happen? What perspective did you think? It's like getting pregnant and having a baby and then going, oh my God, I don't sleep at all. What did you think was going to happen? And I'm not trying to be mean or a tough guy. I'm just saying, what did you expect? What did you expect? When you get married, you're like, hey, I just can't go hang out with the boys like I used to. No, you have a wife. You have to check with her. You touch base with her. Frankly, I don't rarely do but 1 out of every 10 things anymore with my boys and my friends and my buddies outside of Liz. Liz is my best friend. I want to hang out with my wife. I don't want to hang out with my best friends or my friends as much as I want to hang out with my wife. It's just not how it works. You're married now. When you were a child, you did childish things. When you became a man, you put away with childish things, right? So when you're becoming an entrepreneur, let me rephrase this. I heard somebody say this once. When I became a Christian, my life didn't get easier. In fact, my life became, I feel like, and many Christians will say this, I feel like my life became exceedingly more difficult. There was new suggestions. Let me take that back. It wasn't suggestions. There was new standards. There was new, I don't say rules, or even laws, but there's just different standards that you play by. There is just different things you do, things you stop doing. And that was tough. It was difficult. And not only that, I was like, dude, I don't know. I feel like I'm under more pressure, more stress, more my finances, more this, more that. Not being attacked, if you will, to go down that whole angle. But at the same point, I kind of felt like I did. The first 6, 12, 18 months of being a new Christian was the hardest time of being a Christian. And let me rephrase that. Let me put it this way. It's almost like you just entered a whole new war. You entered a whole new spiritual war, a whole new plane, a whole new playing field. And you're the new guy. You're the recruit. You're fresh out, like you're right into the military. You're getting dropped into Iraq. You're getting dropped into some desert situation, and you have to start clearing rooms. You're in Fallujah. You just got entered into the thick of it, and you are trained, but you don't have any in field experience, in world combat experience. You're not like a hardened soldier. So you're just dropped in the middle of it. And you're like, this is risky. This is dangerous. I'm scared. And it's just like when you become a new Christian, you left one realm, you became a Christian, and now you're fighting in the spiritual realm. And by the way, these stakes are very, very high, okay? Because we're talking about your soul. We're talking about many, many different decisions. We're talking about the enemy knows you better than almost you know yourself. It knows the word better than almost you know the word. Right, the word of God. You're in a whole different realm, and you become a Christian. You're like, this is hard. This is difficult. Like, I got to tithe. I've got to do this. I'm trying to pray. I feel like I'm being attacked at different things. I'm trying. My new faith is being tested. My new resolve. My new commitment. Yeah, it's getting tested because it's all brand new. Well, nobody ever told me these things, right? Because if we told you everything right out of the gate, would you have really made the decision? Whether it's becoming a Christian, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur, whether it's becoming a father, whether it's becoming a husband. Right? It's just how it works. Now, one thing I will say, you can learn, you can study, you can gird up, you can have training, you can educate yourself, you can get around other great people, and they'll help you navigate this stuff. And so here's my point. to go full circle, to talk to my buddy Andrew. He was like, how do you get it all done? How are you able to manage the season and manage a podcast, manage this? And he wasn't like, like I've got it all figured out. He was just saying, hey, quick question. How do you do everything that you're doing? Because this is Andrew's story to tell, but he's like, hey, it's pretty easy to do podcasts in, January, February, March, April before the season really kicks off. But it seems a little bit more difficult lately because we're working a full load and doing the whole deal. And I'm like, bro, absolutely. We are too. I said, here's the reality of it as becoming an entrepreneur is that you just got to get it done. You just got to get it done. You have to put in the hours. You have to put in the commitment. And there's no other easier way to say it. I'm trying to think how I could use the best of my vocabulary, the best of my vernacular, the best of my analogies, the best stories that I can to help you guys out there who are in business for yourself. And maybe you're new, or maybe you're new in the first couple of years. And you're like, man, I just seem like I'm stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. I'm tired. I'm maybe not making the headwind that I thought. Or how does everybody else make it look easy? Or the Instagram highlight reel, the notorious Instagram highlight reel, or YouTube highlight reel. Right? Everybody looks happy. Everybody looks like they have it, figured out. Everybody's getting new equipment. Everybody's building this or buying that. And how come I'm not? Look, I get it. I get it, man. We've all been there. The reality is that it's not always sunshine and rainbows. The reality is that there's tough days. Like I talked about earlier, people quit, or there's employee drama, or, people are bickering on your team, or somebody's showing up late. Another guy, shows up hungover. One guy's got to be done by 3 because he's a doctor appointment at 4 that he knew about for 6 months, but then just miraculously forgot to tell you for the last 3 weeks so you could plan ahead or schedule ahead. Oh, and thankfully, because it always works this way, the day before you had a rain day, so that next day you were going to double up and mow the world and just knock out all your lawns, but he unfortunately has to be done that day. He didn't bother to move his appointment to the rain day. No. Employees wouldn't think ahead like that. But then that next day, he's got to be off by 2:00 so he can make his 3 or 4 o'clock doctor appointment, right? Anybody ever experience that kind of stuff? Happens to me all the time. It's happened to me 1,000 times. And folks are like, well, it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be an entrepreneur. I'm supposed to click photos and be on the beach. I'm supposed to be on Instagram. That's what everybody shares. That's what everybody portrays, right? When you kind of start going down that rabbit hole, live a few years like nobody else so you can live the rest of your life like nobody else, right? All that kind of stuff. The entrepreneur is the one who works 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week, right? But then, you read somebody else's book and they're like, hey man, 4-hour work week. 4-hour work week. If you don't have it figured out, you can't manage. If you can't walk away from your business and come back in 2 years and it's not bigger than when you left it, then you don't have a real business, right? And you kind of realize that a lot of that stuff is garbage. Real business, real entrepreneurship, real talk. 90% of that stuff, 99% of that stuff is garbage. It's rooted in sales and marketing and the ability for those people to have one or two great thoughts, and they can't sell one or two great thoughts with a pamphlet, so they have to bundle it with 200 extra pages. That's how they make a self-help book. And then you realize they're better at marketing and promoting and creating branding and creating social media followings. And then next thing you know, they're being able to share and talk all over the world, and they have a platform and all this other stuff. And it's just the reality of it. It's just whatever, man. That's their hustle. Great job. But you study real successful entrepreneurs. You study real successful people, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, so many more in between. You start to realize that is not how business works. I'm reading a really, really good book right now, The Road Less Stupid. It's a really, really good book. And it's helping me even demystify some of this crap, because sometimes I feel inadequate, myself included. I'm human just like you guys. And I'm like, how are so many people getting so much done? How are so many people making so much money? Why do I feel like I'm stuck in the mud? Right? We all deal with this kind of stuff. So to go back full circle to my friend Andrew Martinez, when we're talking about how do you get it all done, I said, here's the reality, dude. You just do. You just do. Either you do or you don't. And as an entrepreneur, I love to dispel some myths out there, but at the same point, it just literally comes down to hustle and hard work and how bad do you want it. And when you're just getting started, you think it's easy, or you think it might be simple. It might be this, it might be that. Look, it's almost like none of that really matters. What really matters is results. What really matters is production. What really matters is accomplishment. What really matters is getting something done. Let me give you, for instance, let's say you commit to starting a podcast and you want to have a podcast show Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, fair enough. Rock and roll. Let me ask you guys this: as a consumer, as somebody who's listening to a show, and this might be something that makes sense, maybe doesn't. I don't have any notes here, but if you guys are a listener or a consumer of a show, and you're like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you listen to a certain podcast, and then one day on a Wednesday after this thing's been out, whether it's 4 years or 4 months, there's no Wednesday show. Let's say it's always posted at 6 or 7 a.m. and you look down at your phone and you don't see a show. What do you think? You think, that's weird. Like something must have happened. Something must have happened. And you go, well, I hope they load a show. Maybe they're just behind. It'll be up at 8, 9, 10 a.m. or whatever. And then 2 o'clock comes around and there's still no show. And you go, well, something must have came up. I guess there's no show today. The reality is that 2 things happened. One, you as an entrepreneur, you failed. If that's your commitment, is to get a show up at, let's say, 7 a.m. on that Wednesday, or to mow the lawns that day, your Wednesday route, and you didn't get the lawns done. The customer looks out the window and it's 5:30 and they're like, he normally comes around noon, but sometimes we've seen him at 4, but I don't know, it's 6:30 at night. I don't think he's coming tomorrow. He's probably just coming tomorrow. He's just coming tomorrow. Look, the reality is that as an entrepreneur, you didn't get it done. You didn't accomplish it. And so it is what it is, right? No matter what happened, it is what it is. It didn't get done. From 100 different excuses to 100 different reasons of why it didn't get done. From the lawn care business to equipment to traffic to employees to the truck broke down to something happened to you got your mower stuck to the rain to, dude, it doesn't matter. Literally there's probably 1,000 different excuses why you didn't get the work done. From the podcast, the producer didn't this, my internet was down, my phone was out of data for a hotspot, my mixer broke, I spilled a Coca-Cola on the microphone when I was taking a sip of water. Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, 1,000 different reasons it didn't get done. As a consumer, let me ask you this: do you care why something didn't get done? Not really. Not really. You'll understand. You'll say, oh, well, that's why there's no show today on this podcast in this example. Sure. But the reality is, like, do you care? No. Why? Because as a consumer, you've got 100 different other podcasts to choose from Pandora to, radio stations to political podcasts to 1,000 other, podcasts in whatever realm, whatever genre, whatever niche, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. There's 1,000 other options. So as the consumer, you go, oh, that's kind of, well, whatever, that podcast didn't load today. I'll just go listen to something else. And as an entrepreneur, period, case closed, you lost that day. If your commitment was to get a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show up and you didn't have a Wednesday show up, you lost. And so as an entrepreneur, this sounds like tough guy talk. This is just the reality of it. Like, I don't care as an entrepreneur, or as a consumer, what you have to do as an entrepreneur to meet the expectation. I don't care. I just want to know if there's going to be a Wednesday show in this example. As a customer for lawn care, I don't care 1,000 different ways why the lawn didn't get cut. Cut the lawn. That's why I hired you for. I don't care. I don't care about 1,000 different problems. In today's generation, it's so politically correct. Everybody's so soft. If it makes you feel happy, do it. If it doesn't make you feel happy, don't do it. If it's tough, quit. If it's hot, go home. If it's cold, don't go out. If it's raining, it's a rain day, go take a nap. If it's this, if it's that, right? If it's convenient, get it done. But if it's not, don't worry about it. And I'm just going to tell you folks out there that are listening in, as you might already know, might already expect, and might already understand, that's just not how it works when you're an entrepreneur. It just doesn't work. At the end of the day, nothing matters. Nobody cares. Get it done. And that's tough. That is tough talk because there is no cavalry. There is no backup. No one's coming to save you. It's your company. You stuck your neck out there and you wanted to become an entrepreneur, and now you have to fully embody it. You have to take all the great days. Everybody wants to buy the Lambo. Everybody wants to have a 10 grand month. Everybody wants to flash stacks in front of their friends or go buy a Hublot. Okay. I get it. But you also get to fully take ownership of the whole sphere of being an entrepreneur. And that means the days when the bank account's drawn, the days when the bank account's at zero, the day when the credit card has 20,000 on there, the days or the Wednesday your payroll's coming out, you don't have any money in the account, you got to pay payroll by Friday and you don't have any payroll, right? The days where you had a fight with your wife and the next day you have to go put on a happy smiley face and go talk to your customers, right? Like think about this. I'm just going to call it just call it straight up. As a consumer, maybe you're a consumer too, because you guys you're business owners and most of you are consumers. You're consuming products from other companies too. Like, would it ever dawn on you as a customer to care about any of these following situations? It's funny because we're towing the line on both sides. Like, for example, if there's a podcast you listen to on Wednesday and the host had a knockout, drag out, blowout fight with their wife, kicking and screaming, and somebody's peeling out of the parking lot or the driveway or the house, at 2 a.m, go crazy. And she packs the bags and goes to mom's house and, takes the kids and all that other stuff. And then you don't have a podcast Wednesday morning. Okay, well, that's a very extreme situation. But at the end of the day, as a consumer, now hopefully the people you're listening to are like a little bit more stable. But at the end of the day, arguably at 7 a.m., if there's no podcast, do you really care? No. As an entrepreneur, you lost. Well, I had a fight that night and my family comes first, all this other mess. Totally agree. However, your business lost that day. It is what it is. Nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever said that it was going to be easy, right? Nobody ever told me it was going to be tough either. It's true. Like, for example, let me give you guys a for instance. I'll use me for example. Imagine this. We've had 900 YouTube videos, Monday, Wednesday, Friday show on the podcast for 2 years straight, maybe 3 years now. I don't even know what it is. I literally don't even know. I don't even care. I'm just going through consistency to get to my end result. That's all it is. I don't look at the numbers. I'm not like, we had a good month, we had a bad month. I'm like, are things growing? Yes. Then we're going to keep on keeping on, because if my numbers are growing, that means I'm reaching more people, and that's my goal. I want to continue to reach more people and just keep encouraging more folks. That's the only metric of what we're doing with it's not how much money we're making, how many people show up to an event, how many people use the code, this, that. It's literally, no, how many people are we helping? If I stop getting messages saying, hey dude, change my business, change my life, then I know that my content is no longer helpful and I don't need to be putting it out. But let me give you an example. Do you guys think they're in the same, and I'm not here, I'm just using me as an example because it's a relevant example that I can use because I know the story here. But do you guys think that there's ever been a day or a week where Liz and I had a fight, or a really good fight, good being bad, or a really, really knockout fight, and the next morning we have to drop a podcast? Probably yes. Do you think that there's ever been a time where I've maybe worked, and I'm a little bit tired? And I'm not saying I'm a hero here. I'm not. I'm just talking out loud. I'm just saying, here's the reality of being an entrepreneur. That never gets shared on social, that never gets captured on YouTube. It rarely gets talked about. It's an unlimited commitment of just figuring it out and getting it done and making sure the end result happens. I don't care how it gets done, but you have to get it done. That's my point. At the end of the day, nobody cares. Elon Musk puts a rocket into space. If he gets a rocket into space, he gets the contract. Nobody cares how hard it was. Nobody cares how many ships they blew up. Nobody cares how they changed from one wing nut to this wing nut, or one valve to this valve, or they made it out of this space age material or versus this space age material. Nobody cares that they went from iron to steel, steel to aluminum, aluminum to carbide, to carbon to this. They don't care about the percentage, went from 70% carbon to 54% carbon because the burn rate and the cool rate, whatever. I don't know anything about rocket science, but this is what I'm talking about. Nobody cares. Did you get the rocket into space? Yes. Okay, NASA, here's a $400 million or $4 billion contract. Same thing with the podcast. Same thing with the lawns. Nobody, other people are dealing with the same crap you guys are. I'm telling you all the time, like, people are dealing with the same crap you are. People are having fights with their wife or their husband. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to, of course, you don't want to have fights with your wife or your spouse, but it happens. It's real life with real freaking people running these companies, I'm running my businesses. You guys are running your businesses. You guys have a fight with your spouse, and then guess what? The next morning, hopefully you resolved it by the next morning, or you just agreed to just like, hey, let's just chill out for a half a day. We'll talk later. We'll get home later today. I got work to do. You got the kids to manage, whatever. And you get home at 4 or 5 o'clock, and then you just try to button it up, solve it, get to the root of it. But would you guys imagine there's days when you guys have fights? I would imagine there's days you guys have fights. Customer doesn't care if the lawn doesn't get cut because you had a fight the day before, right? And you're like, well, I'm self-employed. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm this, I'm that. I'm allowed to skip a day. I'm allowed to show up late. I'm allowed to do. You totally are, and you're also allowed to fail in business. Now, if you know you have a Wednesday cut and you cut on Thursday, nobody's gonna burn you at the stake. Okay, I don't think it's that dramatic. But start missing a couple commitments like this. Start getting soft. Start getting lazy. And this is the kind of stuff that starts unraveling your life. And that's why it's not like a cute saying like to pay dues every day. It's to make sure that you're still, I love the word duty. Duty is one of my favorite words to talk about. The crowning of a character of a man, the crowning achievement of a man's character is the moment he realizes he was born to obey, that he has duty. Is something I read in a book a long time ago. And it was talking about the fact that as a man, you have duty. As a man, you are charged with obeying. You're charged with obeying God's word. You're charged with going out and growing and spreading the good news and creating disciples, spreading the message. And it was just talking about duty. This whole chapter on duty. And it's one of those things where people are like, well, I'm allowed to do whatever I want, because we're in this so different world that we live in today, where you're like, I get to do whatever I want, and I'm self-employed, and you think it's cool to jump on Instagram and just say, I did this today, or I didn't do this today because I want to go to the beach because I deserve it. And it's like, dude, it's like buying a 747 for $350 million to get the free peanuts. You know what I mean? Like, it's not how it works. Like, that's not what running a company is all about. It's not about being able to take time off to go to the beach on a Tuesday or to the pool or to get done early when you mailed it in. It's not how it works. You have to get the job done. And so to go back to this other analogy, if you didn't get the lawns done, you didn't get the podcast done because it was hot, it was cold, it was wet, rainy, because your kids had a broken arm when they were riding their bicycle. They had an unexpected something. You got sick. You got COVID. You got in an accident. And you're like, well, Brian, this is like a little extreme. This is a little tough. Sure is. Sure is. I've been putting out content for 5 years. Do you think Liz and I had a fight along the way? Maybe. Do you think that we've had family members get sick? Yep. Do you think we've had family members pass away? Yep. Do you think we've had people go through cancer? Yep. We've had 2 people in my family go through breast cancer. The whole time. Still putting out podcasts every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Liz is pregnant. We've had a miscarriage. We've had scares with Emmy. We've had just life, man. Just life. We still had content. We made a commitment to you, to the show, to the business, to the podcast, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, without fail. If something's going on and the podcast doesn't load up, somebody better call 911. Don't call 911, but somebody better call 911, because something dramatic happened to happen in my life for me to not hit the mark, for me to not hit the goal. And you're like, well, Brian, that's a little intense. That's a little serious. You know what? The game of life is pretty serious. For somebody who wants to change their stars, yeah, I take the duty and the responsibility to figure this crap out pretty serious. And I know other people like, man, I'm just tired of being sick and tired. I'm just tired about being this. I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of not being able to give my wife nice things or to put her in a nicer, safer car or to, teach my kids about investing or to leave something of value or to take care of my parents or to retire them or to, leave $1,000 for them, just on Christmas morning or whatever. And then the same folks that are like, oh yeah, dude, I'm self-employed. So I'm going to quit, work on Friday at noon because I'm going to go fish because after all, I earned it. I deserved it. I have been putting in 12 weeks, Brian. You don't understand. The spring rush, I have been putting in 12 weeks and 70 hours per week for 12 weeks. I mean, after all, the dam's got to give eventually, right? I need a day off. I do deserve it. You're right. Yes, so you totally do. You totally do. However, is there dissonance there with you accomplishing your bigger goal? You accomplishing your main objective. I'm not saying pace. I'm not saying, rest. I'm not saying eat health, not eat healthy. I'm not saying don't make time for working out. I'm not saying you don't deserve a day off. I'm not saying anything like that. But man, I just see way too many people taking it way too easy on themselves. You have these everybody, I've never done a coaching call where somebody's told me small dreams and small goals. I'm like, hey, I always like halfway through to 3/4 of the way through the call. Hey man, where do you see this thing in the next couple of years? What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to go? Where are you trying to get? I've never heard somebody say like, I just want a $12,000 a year business. It's always some grandiose plan. I want to do a couple million this or a couple crews that, which is awesome. I'm all for that, like rock and roll. And then I'm like, so what is your work ethic like? Well, I usually take Fridays off because I like to fish. That's my fishing day. I don't do any work on Sundays because that's the Lord's day. And, got on the Sabbath and all this stuff. And I'm like, yep, cool. I said, God took the 7th day off just so you know, because he worked the first 6. I said, based on your work ethic, I don't know if you even put in 6 hours in the first, 6 days of like actual work. Ooh, like you can't say that. That's aggressive. You're challenging me. I'm not challenging you. I'm just trying to talk perspective. It's the whole like military thing. Like we do more by 8 a.m. on Monday than you do all week. I hear people, and I'm not the standard, by the way. Don't look at me. I'm not saying I do this and you don't do that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying based on your commitment and your work ethic, based on the goals that you set out for you and your wife and your family that you set, that you wanted to put forth, that you wanted to accomplish this year, do you think you deserve a day off? Do you think that you deserve some time off? Do you think that you deserve to go fishing at the pond at 1:00? Ask your wife. Ask your wife if she feels happy with you right now to let you go blow $1,500 on a fishing trip.
Running a successful lawn care and landscaping business means you are working hard and smart. You're smart about investing in equipment to grow your business, to be more efficient, go the distance, and take more on. Cujo Yardware is working hard to provide you with the absolute best footwear options to help you get the job done. You want efficiency? Trash the grass-stained athletic shoes that fail on slopes and dew. You want to go the distance? Forget those overkill boots that weren't built for the yard. You don't have to choose between lightweight comfort or water-resistant traction because Cujo Yardware was built for you. From the comfortable yard shoes to the tough X1 landscape boots, Cujo selected the best quality materials to optimize the performance and satisfaction of lawn care professionals. While you focus on laying killer stripes, Cujo will be there every step of the way. Check them out at Cujo.com. Kujo.com.
Ask your wife if she feels happy with you right now to let you go blow $1,500 on a fishing trip. I'm telling you what, man, like when you start self-counseling and you start asking yourself how well you're doing, you know what you're going to give yourself? An A grade. I was listening to something by Ed Milet, and he's like, all of you guys think that you're doing pretty good, and you are compared to the peers next to you. Compared to me, you're a joke. You're not even in the game. And some guys resonate with tough talk like that. Some guys don't. They're like, I don't like that. All right, that's fine. Like I'm more of a lover, not a fighter, believe it or not. But you make $300,000 a year and you're like, dude, I'm doing great. And then you get around somebody who's making $3 million a year and you're like, you might not even be in the game. And I'm not, again, it's nothing with what I'm saying. Like, don't look at me like I'm the standard. I'm trying to figure all this out myself. But I'll tell you what, like, I don't believe I deserve certain days off. My wife's like, dude, you deserve it more than anybody. I'm like, yeah. And then the other side of me says, dude, you said that you were going to take care of your wife first class. You think making $200,000 a year, $400,000 a year, $600,000 a year, having $100,000 a year or $100,000 in the bank account or $1 million in the bank account or pick your thing. Like everybody listening in, you guys all have different levels. I'm just talking out loud, but do you think that that's what is going to give security to your wife? Is that where you feel like, hey, if I got hit by a bus today, that my wife would be all set? She would be taken care of no matter what? Not even an ounce in my mind. There's no way she could spend it all if she wanted or if she could. I'm not there yet. By the way, I don't know if I'll probably be I'll have 10 million in the bank and, $1 million in cash flow. And I'll still be like, you know what, dude, I'm going to work today. I'm going to work today because until I have 100 million, I feel like it's not because Liz spends some money, but I'm saying it sounds funny right there, but it's because I just don't think I'm done yet. I don't think I've secured the bag. I don't think I've secured my wife and my kids' futures, my kids' finances. Does that make sense? So people are like, well, I deserve time off and I deserve this and I deserve that. And I'm working 70 hours. Don't you know how hard I'm working? I'm like, yeah, but compared to what you committed to, is that the right amount of work? Is that the work ethic? If you're like, well, I wanted to put 50 grand in the savings account and we just wanted a $40,000 a year business. Awesome. Okay, then awesome. Then job is done. Go fish. But other people are like, well, I want to do all these big things. And I'm like, well, your work ethic doesn't say that. What's the old one? Like, you can't have a multi-million-dollar dream with a minimum wage work ethic. It's like, dude, come on. Like, for example, let me zoom out. Elon Musk, interplanetary travel, multiple colonies. He wants to, expand the human civilization to different planets and different solar systems in our lifetime. And then people are like, hey, you don't sleep much. And he works 120 hours a week and he's sleeping in the factory, on the factory floor, and he doesn't own any real personal possessions. He doesn't own a home. He just drives his Tesla and then zips around on his jet to the different, companies he owns and puts in 120 hours a week and he's working his guts out. And you're like, well, that's different though. He's Elon Musk because his commitment to what he's trying to accomplish is what, makes him want to work that hard and to not get that much sleep. Oh, okay. So what's your commitment? What are you trying to fight for? What are you trying to solve? What is your goal? And I'm not getting tough. I'm just saying, like, there's so many people listening in that want to take care of their wife and kids. And then I see your little green dot active all day long on Instagram. All day long on Instagram. Well, Brian, that just means that you're active all day long on Instagram too. Yeah. Making posts and answering people's DMs and quote unquote customer service is kind of what I talked to Liz about. I'm like, hey, if this is a social media thing and it's kind of a business thing and we make some money from it thing, then I probably want to get back to these people thing, not to sell them things, but to help them solve their problems things. And because I help them solve their problems and make more money things, then they buy some stuff things because it's called reciprocity things. So I guess I should probably get back with every single person I can. Other people, they don't care. And that's why they don't get back with people. Not because it's not a business, because they just don't care about people. And like, well, I've messaged people and I never get a response back because they don't care. They don't care. Oh, well, Brian, you get back with people because you care so much, right? Because that way you get a code and that way you make, $4 from Cujo. Oh yeah, it's going to put me right over the top, critic. No, I get back with people and we've gotten back with people and we got back with people way before we ever made any money with social media. And by the way, what's making money, by the way? 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, $250,000 a year, 10 grand a year. It's all relative because to one guy, 10 grand's a lot. Another guy, 50 grand's a lot. Another guy, neither of those would even pay, Gary Vee's tax bill when he made 17 million 2 years ago. So it's all relative. So yeah, Liz and I, we've helped people before we made money. We've made a little bit of money here the last couple of years with both businesses. And I'm pretty excited about that. Very thankful about that. But we've always gotten back with people. We've answered every comment back way before we ever made any quote unquote money with social media. And by the way, if you're talking like what I made per hour, probably actually going into social media and like answering messages and creating content, and then you divide by what we actually make, it's probably easier to just go lay some mulch. But here's the deal. I'm not making an impact. I'm not telling my story. I'm not changing lives, slinging mulch necessarily. But I am when I get to put that content on social media and help the next guy and encourage the Brian's Law maintenance of 10 years ago. That's what I always say. Amen. So here's my point. A lot of words here just to say, I understand it's hard. I understand it's tough. At the end of the day, you have to fulfill the commitment to whatever you are making. You have to get the job done. I don't know what that looks like. I don't care what that looks like. You shouldn't care what that looks like. I have a joke and a quote, one that I got from Mr. Jay-Z, of course, Mr. Sean Carter. And it was, difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. Right? There's no problem that sustained thought can't overcome. Literally, think about that. You have a problem, truck goes down, and you're like, you weren't even thinking about, you don't even have a second truck, but your truck went down, you got a dump trailer full of mulch. What do? It should take you less than 20 minutes, most of us, 20 minutes of some sustained thought, to go, you know what? I got to get a truck. You go through the Rolodex of all your buddies who's got a truck. After that, you go through the Rolodex of what could also move this from a tractor to a four-wheeler to a this or to a quad to a, almost anything. Then from there, you go to, you know what? I could go to Enterprise. Enterprise doesn't have any trucks. Dang it, I'm going to go to Avis, then to Alamo, then to Hertz. And then from there, you go to, you know what? I'm going to call U-Haul. Oh, U-Haul. Okay. Well, I'm going to get a big box truck, a 30-foot long box truck with a hitch, and I'm going to go pull my dump trailer or whatever because it's rated for it maybe, right? Got to do the math there. And then you got a U-Haul and you're off to the races. Well, U-Haul's out of U-Hauls, so I can't do a U-Haul. Darn it. Well, then what do? Well, then you call Home Depot. And it's like $19.95 for the first 20 minutes. One of those for the first hour, right? And you're like, well, that's a 350 gasser. That could probably pull something. And then you can put a hitch on that. Nobody's going to know the wiser. And you just figure it out. But you've never went through that contingency after contingency after contingency after contingency. Right? You've never done that because you've never been there. And then why does a guy who's been in business for 15, 20, 30 years make it look so easy? Because he's failed 100 different ways on 100 different topics. And he knows that if a trailer wheel goes out, to an axle that breaks, to a leaf spring that breaks, to a blade that gets dent, to a lawnmower that is sputtering, to a lawnmower that the starter won't work because there's a missing wire there with an ignition switch and it's behind the seat and you didn't know that it was there, right, Jacobs? Jeremy's listening. To a truck broke down, to I didn't change the oil, to whatever. 100 different things for 100 different reasons, for 100 different ways. That's what the seasoned entrepreneur, that's what the seasoned vet, to the sales process. Why does this customer close? To why does this customer close? Why did I get this sale? Why did I not get this sale? 100 different things for 100 different reasons. Body language, tones. Don't use this word. Oh, I said this. Man, that was stupid. I had them and then I said this and I lost them. Or I said, hey, just think about it and get back with me, when I should have said, hey, if I don't hear back from you in 3 days, can I get back with you? I don't want to bother, but I just want to make sure I follow up with you. I didn't want you to fall through the cracks. Yeah, honey, that's great. Please get back with me. Great. Right? You've learned. That's why the seasoned guy makes it look like a highlight reel on Instagram. But when you're brand new, you don't know any of these things. But you're never going to figure these things out if you just quit, if you just give up, or if you just think it's going to be easy, or you just think it's going to be absolute or just osmosis. You learn how to become an entrepreneur. It's not how it works, right? You have to make the commitment to get that thing done. I don't care if you have a 25-yard mulch job on Saturday and somebody in your extended family has cancer and you want to go see them and they only have 2 weeks left to live. Like it's so extreme to say in this world today, but you have a commitment to a customer or to a client. Number one, communicate if you can't do the job. That's one whole story. Number two, if you committed to getting the job done, and it could be a mulch job, it could be something else, right? Getting to your kids' baseball practice at 4:00. Well, you don't understand. I got stuck in traffic. No, you didn't leave an hour early. You always know that highway gets backed up. You didn't leave an hour early. You thought you could shave time on the highway. The reality is that nobody shaves time on the highway here on Highway I-80 or 94 or 270 or 164 or 165 or 64 North or 52 East. What did you think? You should have left early. Own it. At the end of the day, people are like, well, how do you get it all done? How do you just get it all done? And that's why there's 1,000 podcasts with 1,000 stories, with 1,000 different interviews from 1,000 different niches, with 1,000 different industries. I'm not learning any more specific, like how to be successful in business. Business is business. It's pretty simple once you start realizing how things work. I'm looking and I'm learning and I'm listening to now nuances, stories, little tidbits, little takeaways, little nuggets that I can use and store in my brain. So when I come up to this next encounter, this next junction, this next hurdle, I can jump over that. I can go around it. I can bounce through it or underneath it or over it because I heard from somebody else and I got to use their experience to lessen the burden that's going to be on my time, my life, my resources, my energy, my life force. That's why you listen. That's why you constantly listen. People are like, I already understand enough about business. I don't need to listen to that podcast anymore or that self-help book. I've read enough. I've listened to enough. Really? You think you've learned enough and solved enough and figured it every single way of every single thing forever? And that's why success is a constant forever pursuit. That's why the best people, from a John Maxwell to a Grant Cardone to a Darren Hardy to whoever your person is, they still every single day are putting in 15 to 30 minutes of a good book, 15 to 30 minutes of a good audio program, 15 to 30 minutes of, a conversation with somebody, and a quarterly to an annual conference because they're always learning latest and greatest. They're always learning. They're always trying to figure it out. By the way, that happened at the very beginning when they couldn't figure anything out. But you know what? Fast forward 20, 30 years later, and they've got a bunch more ways of getting the job done. To go full circle to my friend Andrew, and I'm hoping this helps. I'm just coming at you guys with a spirit of love, a spirit of encouragement, a spirit of, you just got to get it done. Nobody talks about it. It was never presented this way to me. It was like this, you become an entrepreneur and all your problems get solved. You become a Christian and all your problems get solved. When I became a Christian, I inherited not only the earthly problems, I incurred and encountered 1,000 more spiritual problems. I was like, I'm going to become a Christian. I'm going to be white as snow. This is going to be amazing. I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. This is amazing. Best day of my life. After that was the getting married, and number 3 was the birth of my daughter. Best day of my life. Dude, the next 12 months, I felt like every demon on the planet was trying to attack me personally, from my job to my life, to my business, to my family, to everything. Things I've never even heard of before, things I've never even seen before. I was like, this isn't how it's supposed to work. When you become an entrepreneur, man, I'm going to just start printing money and life is good and customers are going to come my way and the blessings are going to be bestowed upon me. Yes and no. Yes and no. And so when it comes down to the commitment to get the job done, that's what I'm talking about, the commitment to get the job done. And I say this with love because at the end of the day, the customer, the consumer, they don't care. We're talking about business. You got to take care of people. You got to take care of customers. You got to solve problems and serve people. At the end of the day, if you don't, somebody else will. And it, period. Like, there's no other way to say it. If you didn't finish, if you didn't hit the mark, if you didn't get something done, the customer is going to go somewhere else and you lost. And so when I was talking to my friend Andrew, he's like, how do you get it all done? I'm like, listen, dude, it's 70, 80, 90 hour weeks. It's making a podcast when you don't want to. It's after you've given everything to your lawn care business that day, after you've given everything to your kids and your family when you get home from 5 to 9, after you've expelled all energy and you're exhausted, and then you're so tired that you can't even see straight. That's when you still have to pull deep and you're at 1% energy, and I don't care, you still have to get it done. I said, based on your commitment, based on the goal that you set. If your goal was to create, let's say, that Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast, and I'm not picking on Andrew, I'm just, great example though. I mean, it's just somebody who's a butt kicker, but I'm just using it as an example. I'm saying, if you really believe in your mission and you really believe in your commitment, and come hell or high water, you're going to hit that mark. Paul Jameson talked about, I had to do 100 podcasts just to see if I could commit to it. And then I'll evaluate if I'm actually serious. Isn't that funny? I'm going to do 100 no matter what. And then I'm going to see if I actually enjoy this. And I got so many people that are like, I just don't know if lawn care is for me. I've tried it for 3 months and it's getting hot. What did you expect? Yeah, well, I had some employee issues, or, I dealt with some tough customers, and the confrontation, I wasn't expecting that. But then they're like, I'm like, why did you quit your job and go full-time in the lawn care? Yeah, I just couldn't stand my boss and I hated my coworkers. Okay. Conflict, you're still going to have it, whether you're self-employed or whether you're working for somebody else. Okay. To go back to, just to wrap this thought up really quick here. Andrew's like, well, how do you get a show up Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Or how do you get this done? Or how do you do YouTube? How do you do this? I go, dude, at the end of the day, I just made sure that it got done. I just made sure that we had a YouTube video posting 3 or 4 times a week. I just made sure that we had a podcast dropping Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I just made sure I made an Instagram post every day. I have like 4,500 pieces of content. I just made a post every 3 days or 3 times a day. I was 7-11-3-7 every day for 2 years on Instagram. Stan, how do you grow a successful Instagram? You have like 50,000 followers. What do I know? Stan, how do you do? He's like, I post 7-11-3-7, 7 a.m. when everybody wakes up, 11 o'clock before they hit lunch, 3 o'clock when they take a mid-afternoon break, and all the factory workers get out, and 7 o'clock when everybody checks their phone after dinner. All right, sounds good to me. I want to grow this thing. There's your social media hack. Well, I heard the answer is Reels. Well, I heard the answer is, 4 posts a day. I downloaded this app, tells me the best time to post, when to post app. I pay $15.99 a year for it, right? Or whatever you do. The YouTube algorithm tells me I should post between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. That's when the most active time. And then for my channel, the dark purple on my little lines are from 4 to 9 p.m. is the most active time to post on my channel. Okay, great. I mean, you should use best practices, of course. I mean, don't plant corn in December. Okay, maybe planted that stuff in March, April, May. I'm not a farmer, but I would logically think probably going to plant corn in the spring, probably not in the, when it's 12 degrees out. That being said, though, Somebody who's going, who's going to be the more the better farmer over the long haul? Somebody who plants corn every year, every spring, March, April, or May, whenever you're supposed to do it, every year for 50 years. They're probably going to get more lucky than somebody who's like, well, I'm going to plant one time in March, and then I'm going to go maybe plant one time next year in February. Then next year, I'm not even going to plant because honestly, my dog got sick and I had to take him to urgent care, and that was a $3,000 bill, and I didn't expect it. And then I got home the next morning at 8 a.m. and I was really, really tired because obviously I've been up all night because my dog was really sick because he, swallowed a, Crustio, and there's a little razor blade in there from The Simpsons. And so we had to go get his appendix cut open and fixed and all this other stuff. So obviously getting home at 8 a.m., I was exhausted, wiped, exhausted. Dude, you understand. It's just life, man. You understand. So at 8 a.m., I decided to sleep. So I just didn't work the next, that afternoon. And plus, I was just taking the day off. I had to recuperate, had to help the wife, with the kid because they were emotionally distraught because the dog got sick. And it's like, it's almost like, I don't know, man. I just hold myself to a different standard. I'm not a hero. I don't know. I don't care. I don't know another way to say it. Completely unfiltered that so many people just don't want it. They just don't want it. They just don't. They say they do, they don't. And I'm not a hero. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not the standard. I'm just saying, when you look at success, me too, guys, I'm looking at successful people and I'm thinking to myself, I thought I wanted it until I got around somebody who did. Right? And it doesn't mean you can't. It just means you have to finish. It means you have to commit. Fully commit. I got people, I want to grow a successful YouTube channel. They make 3 videos. They go, this is hard. I go, what did you think? Now, here's a tip. 5 years later, YouTube's not as hard for me to create content. I used to record an hour and a half of video. It was awful. I had 75 takes and 400 edits. My videos sucked. They still suck. But anyway, because I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just a lawn care bro. And I record an hour and a half of content to trim it down to, 15-minute video. And it'd take 5 hours and get 12 views. And it just sucked. It sucked so long. It sucked. I'm surprised I didn't quit along the way. But I didn't quit because I said one day, this thing will compound. One day I'll figure this thing out. I figured if I just kept my hand to the plow, I would learn. And even the dumbest person, even the dim-wittedest person out there, if you're consistent over time, you will learn skills. You will eventually learn what works. You will eventually learn what doesn't work. You will eventually figure things out. Even if you're the dumbest person, I will assure you that listening in with a listenership of 110,000 downloads a month, I would 100% rank myself in the top 5% of the dumbest people listening to this show, or have listened to the show, or do listen to the show. And you guys are listening to me. I'm telling you, I am dumber than 99% of you guys listening in. And I'm not being funny. I just have a dogged determination that I'm not going to quit and I'm not going to give up. And no matter what, I made a commitment to get the job done. We have a 98% on-time rate with all of our lawns. We don't miss a cut. We don't miss a schedule. We don't miss a week. I've had employees quit. I've had all of it. Going full circle to the YouTube thing. We just decided to commit. And I'm just telling you, Liz and I, when we were at our old apartment, and this is what got us out of our old apartment, by the way. We had these 3 Post-it notes, and this was a big driver. And you know what? It might be cheesy. It might not work for you. Maybe something else works for you. Maybe something else lights a fire in you, underneath you, whatever it is. But we had these Post-it notes, and it was, do you want it or do you really want it? And I don't know what book I got that out of. It might have been the 10X book with Grant Cardone or some other book I was reading at the time. It was, do you want it or do you really want it? And we had 2 little underscored lines, under the really. And it was like the tough guy talk. And by the way, Liz is like a, grab the football helmet and tell you how it is kind of person. She's like a type A. She's like a type A of a type A. I'm like a, yeah, nice rah-rah motivational talk. I'm the, just leave me alone. I'm going to go work hard behind the scenes. I don't want the fanfare. I don't want the press. I don't care about any of it. I don't want any of it. It's just not my personality style. I'm the, hey, that sounds good, man. You're a tough guy. You're going to work. You're going to be the number one, whatever. I'm going to go work hard and I'm going to show you how you actually become number one. It's by doing the work. It's doing the work when nobody else is. It's putting in hundreds and hundreds of free throws like Kobe does every morning back in the day before the other people ever showed up to the gymnasium. I love watching those quick clips of the late Kobe. I saw a really good comment on this one. It was somebody talking about, so when I got to the gymnasium, I thought I was first and Kobe was already there and he was just dripping sweat. He was just dripping sweat, man. You could just tell that he'd already been there for 2 hours before, and saying 400 free throws. Before I even got there, then he was like, hey, man, you want to warm up? You want to practice? And then I saw a comment. It was a really good comment. It said, I've never seen anybody describe Kobe's describe Kobe Bryant and say, yeah, so Kobe got there after I did. So Kobe got there after I did. Then we started, sinking free throws, and that's how he became so great. Kobe was always there before. And so listen, I'm not the standard. I'm telling you guys straight up, I'm not the standard. I'm trying to distill success, right? Because I'm trying to become successful all the time. And so what can you take away from that? What you can take away from that is putting in the work, finishing the commitment, getting the job done. And it's just like, it's almost like it was never explained that way to me. It was like success just is for some people, success is just for other people, or some people get lucky, or they look pretty, or they're this or they're that. No, the reality is like when you really, and it's so hard to capture because even Gary Vee with D-Rock, recording every single moment of his day, it's hard to translate that. For example, every single minute I get a second, I'm shooting an email, I'm texting somebody, I'm DMing somebody. Other people at the Speedway gas station are like, oh, GSTV, what's new with Monona Heights or whatever her name is? And she's like, oh, look at what Cheddar's doing. Lost puppy finally gets reunited with their family. And you're like, oh, that's a cool, warm, heartfelt, warming story. That's awesome. And I'm over here shooting an email to a customer, a company, a this, a that, just for my businesses, right? And I'm like, that's 90 seconds there where I can chisel that out to become more successful. And you do it 1,000 times. And by the way, it doesn't always have to be relational. Okay, or business wise, it can be relational. Other people are like, hey man, I'm gonna go scroll on Instagram, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna whatever. And you could have just washed the dishes for your wife. You could have made pancakes for her in the morning. You could have pulled out his clothes for him in the morning. These little kind, random acts of kindness, these kind gestures. I could have took out the trash. I could have just changed the diaper. I could have vacuumed really quick. I could have wiped the windows down. I could have did this. I could have bought that. I could have thought a little bit more. Did you mail in the last gift? Well, I know she likes this and jewelry, so I just went to the jewelry store and said, hey, give me a 3/4 carat, earrings for $7.99 and pick up, the good old fashioned box of Godiva. Okay, that's cool. That's great. Did you really try, or did you just kind of mail it in because it would suffice? It's just up to you. It's this intentional extra little thought. I don't know, man. It's just, it just works on me that so many people say they want the next level. They want the nicer things. They want to work hard for it. And I'm telling you, don't compare yourself to me. That would be a horrible choice. I'm just telling you, compare yourself to you and then compare yourself to your actual commitment. Is there congruency with the commitment that you have to accomplish the goal that you set out? And when it gets tough, who cares? Who cares? I'm not trying to say dude, this next week, it's 97 degrees on Wednesday. It's going to suck. It is going to suck. It's going to suck so much. But man, you got to learn to embrace the suck. You've got to be interested in the suck. You've got to just, sounds so weird, man, but other people would literally just could literally just make content arguing every single point I've made for 50 minutes on this thing saying, no, man, you don't need to do this, or man, the real truth is, or the real successful people do this instead. And it's like, dude, I've heard it for years. For years, I've watched content. I've watched Christian content, and then I watch prosperity preachers, and I watch anti-prosperity preachers, and then I watch your old school people, how they're preaching, and it's just crazy, man. Everybody's got their own way. What you have to do is figure out what works for you based on truth, based on laws, and then work from there, from success to spiritual laws, and then grow your philosophy from there. But I'll tell you what, you got to get rooted. You got to get rooted in truth, and the truth is you have to make a commitment to get the job done, despite all circumstances. So to go full circle to my friend Andrew, not to beat a dead horse, he was like, how do you get it all done? I go, dude, there's times when the content is getting loaded the day before, the hour before, the minute before it goes out, the minute before it's due. There's times when we cut lawns and we get it done the minute before the rain comes in. But you know what? It got done. Sometimes it doesn't look pretty. Sometimes you're a hot mess. Sometimes it's a hot mess. But it got done. And that is true entrepreneurship, right? Elon Musk, he said once, don't bet on futures. He's like, don't bet on things just working out. He's like, you got to be grounded in truth. You got to be grounded in reality. You got to be grounded in not always wishful thinking. You got to be grounded in what are you actually doing, right? And so I don't know. I hope this podcast makes some sense. I'm just talking out loud here. I'm just like, man, Liz and I, even right now, every day, our conversation lately is we got to boss up. Making a couple bucks a year, it's cool. It sounds like a lot of money until you get around people with money. You're like, dude, you're not even in the game. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this sounds funny, but I'm like, I'm talking to companies or I'm talking to customers, and I'm like, hey, Kathy, we're gonna do this mulch job for you. It's 3.5 yards, 110 yards for residential install. It's $385. Do you want to do this? Yes or no? We got some room on Friday. Yeah, honey, go ahead and do it. Knock it out. I'm like, awesome. After expenses and labor on that, $215 on it, whatever it is, right? And I'm like, it takes us an hour and a half. And then I'm talking to like other companies. I'm like, hey man, do you want to sponsor like this video or this tour or get around this or this event or other things? And it's like, how much is that? I don't know, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. I'm learning, just like you guys are. And then they're like, yeah, I don't know, I don't know, maybe, yeah, and then some companies, yeah, absolutely. And then you're like, yeah, I'm winning and doing the same crap you guys are doing, right? We're all hustling, we're all learning. You get a $17,000 landscape job, you're like, dude, this is awesome, this is incredible. And then other people, yeah, I don't know. And then I'm laughing with Liz the other day. I said, Monaco's going on, the Grand Prix is going on, $400 million yachts are backing into this thing. Somebody's parking a LaFerrari. It's like $3.5 million car. They just like parallel park, leave the door open, and they got like 40 bags of, I don't even know, Birkin and, Dolce & Gabbana and whatever, dude. I don't know anything about all these luxury brands, but it's like, it's Monaco, bro. That's what I told Liz for our 10 year. I said, let's go to Monaco. She goes, why would you want to go there? She goes, we'll be the poorest people there. I go, dude, right? Talk about disparity of income. Like maybe we can be a bellman for somebody and like, valet their car. Maybe we'll just get lucky and somebody will have pity on us and just say, hey man, we'll bring you part of the family tree. We own Chase Bank. You can be a distant nephew and here's $12 million. Maybe someone just feel bad for us, or maybe like they'll just see that we're trying to build this house and like, you know what, see that it's a lot of effort and we'll just give you $1 million. I don't know. I'm just having fun. But it's just like one side of me is like, dude, we're doing good. And then like, that's why we go to this place called Bay Harbor, Charlevoix, Michigan. It's absolutely beautiful. It's all new money. It's wealthy. It's cool. It's serene. It's peaceful. And I'm like, we get up there, I'm like, over here, I'm like, yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. And then we go up there. I'm like, I'm a loser. And then I was like, we need to go to Monaco. She's like, why? I'm like, because it's nothing but 2, 5, 10, 50, 100, $400 million yachts with LaFerraris and Bugattis. And they're all 2, 4, 5 million. Maybe some of you guys are into that. Maybe you're not, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, dude, we're not even in the game. I'm like talking to people and companies about hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands. And we're like trying to make hundreds of thousands. And I'm like, and we all start somewhere, right? That's my point. We all start somewhere. But I'm like, hey, we're doing better than we were 5 years ago. I said 5 years from now, we'll probably look back on ourselves and think of what a joke we are today, because that's where I look at where we were 5 years ago and realize how embarrassing we were as human beings. Now, I'm just not talking about income-wise. I'm talking about just like as human beings, like how we conducted ourselves, how we thought, how we talked, our income to our relationship, to what our understanding was about life or purpose or passion, to commitment. It was very fragile. And so that's why I keep telling you, don't compare it to me. Like I'm learning all this stuff too. We're in the thick of it. We're into the thick of it. We're into the thick of it, learning every single day too. So I told Liz, I said, for our 10 year in 2 years, we should go to Monaco and just like have the total disparity of like, 3 generations deep of success, begat success, billionaire families, and all the 100 million families and people that own banking systems and natural supply lines and all this stuff. And I said maybe we're comparing ourselves to the wrong people. We need to get out that way, and not comparing ourselves, but you guys know what I'm saying, trying to look up to. And then you go to Monaco and you're like, you know what, if I was really going to accomplish some of these different things here that these people have, what would I really have to do? How would I think? What would I do? What would I think? Right? Like, how would I act? How would I conduct myself? Like, would they be as concerned about parallel parking in an illegal parking spot, a $3.5 million LaFerrari? No, they don't care, because it's beyond less than 1/1,000,000th of their income, right? Or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, man, that's like my next like many, many decades of income. You buy a $3.5 million car, it costs you $6 million because of taxes, right? So it's $6 million gross to get a $3.5 million net car or whatever. And so I'm thinking to myself, nice Bugatti for $3.5 million or whatever. I'm like, that's really a $6 or $7 million car. But that's the point. That's the point. Do you think those people, when it was tough, they gave up? When it was hot, they quit? When they got in a fight with their wife, they stopped? Or, and I'm not saying they're like the pinnacle of success either, but I'm just, work with me here. You guys know what I'm saying. When they had a fight with their wife, they didn't commit, and fulfill their commitments the next day, right? They got a bad report health-wise for them or for somebody they know, and so they gave them permission to take a day, a week, a month, or a year off. I don't think so, is my point. I don't think so. And so that's a tough level to play at, man. That's a tough commitment. Not everybody wants to hear that. But you know what? Here's what I'll say. Like, just imagine this. Like, just because you don't want to play at that level or I don't want to play at that level doesn't mean that that's not the level that the game needs to be played at to reach the highest level. Does that make sense? Like, it still is wide open for anybody who wants to go get it. You want to go make a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year long landscape business in 12, 18 months? You can. You want to go make $2-3 million in lawn and landscaping and start your own company in the next 4 or 5 years? You absolutely can. You want to start a YouTube channel, get to 100,000 subs, and you think you can do it in 5 years? You can. And frankly, knowing what I know now, it should take you 5 months. That's what I know. It's still going to take you 5 years based on what you know, which is not a lot about YouTube, right? That's just how it works. When you want to get fit, there's people listening in, and there's one guy that I follow on Instagram. He's like the guy that like gains 100 pounds and loses it 6 months later, then gains 100 pounds and loses it, just to prove to his clients that you can be fat and lose it. And if you are skinny and you get fat, you can still lose it, right? Based on what that guy knows, he can shave that weight off in 90 days, 6 months, a year, based on what he knows. But you know what? In the beginning, it was probably a struggle for him the first time to get fit or to lose the weight. And so that's the point. It takes time to learn this stuff. It takes time, but you know what? You got to commit. You got to commit. And again, at the end of the day, it's just tough. It's just tough. It's just the reality. Nobody cares if it didn't get done. Nobody cares why your content didn't post, why the job didn't get done, why you didn't succeed, why your money wasn't made. If you are in divorce court and you didn't say, I love you every day to your wife or give her a peck on the cheek when you get home, it's not like you lost, but my point is like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. The judge is going to hit the gavel and you're divorced. And that's just something where I'm thinking to myself, like, I can't let that happen. Every single day, my wife's going to know that I love her more than anything. You know what I'm saying? And so you're like, well, man, I'm tired today. Like, I don't want to, I worked 90 hours this week and it's, it's Friday and Friday's date night. And I'm just tired. And I got jobs, I got bids, I got all the, man, dude, I get it. But you better find time for date night or you're going to find yourself in divorce court. And it's just a reality, man. Like, you're like, well, I'm tired. So what? So what that you're tired? The world was won by tired men is the quote. Tell you what, man, there's a lot of people listening to the show. I know you guys are tired. You guys are doing this thing. I'm not coming down on anybody. I'm telling you straight up. Like it's an open mic therapeutic session for myself. But some of you guys are tired. Good. You should be more tired. Well, that doesn't sound encouraging. Well, I've heard a lot of your guys' commitments out there, man. You guys are working hard and you are, but you know what? Be tired, be more tired. I'm watching Caleb Wall, man, build his shop and dude, he's burning the midnight oil more than anybody I know right now. Getting the septic in and getting lines drawn and gravel this and graded that and working late nights like Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays and this is and all that's and missing time and it sucks because he wants to spend time with his family and his, Brittany and his kids and they're great people. I know what he's working towards. I know what he's working for. I know the work he's putting in. But you know what? I still don't know the full story because only he does because he's the one there at 6 a.m. firing up his skid steer on a Sunday morning, trying to get 4 extra hours in before family time in church. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the stuff that nobody gets to see. That's the stuff that's never captured. That's the real talk. I mean, man, like for 2 years on YouTube, Brian, the dark circles under your eyes are looking pretty bad. I got with a friend of mine. He's a personal trainer. We got some Panera. He's like, dude, you all right? I'm like, yeah, why? Never better. I'm excited. I'm like cracked out. I'm 4 hours of sleep every night. He's like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, I don't know, those dark circles under your eyes, man. Like dark circles represent, this and this and this, and you're getting some sleep. I'm like, no. He's like, why not? I'm like, because I have a dream, because I'm motivated, because I'm accomplishing things, because I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, because that's what I was focused on at the time. I was like, I'm trying to grow this thing to 100,000 subs. I said, I want to make an impact. I want my story to be out there. I said, I think I can make some income with this thing too. I said, this is what my commitment is right now, both my wife and mine. He's like, all right, well, cool, man. He goes, maybe just take a little break. Why? Well, because he cares about you, Brian. If he cared about me, he would encourage me to keep doing what I'm doing if I was on track and I was pacing to get to my goal. If you get around people that tell you to slow down, man, you're on it, you need to get around other people that are in the hunt with you and tell you to work harder and say, hey, man, I know you're working hard and I know you're losing sleep, but you have more in you. And you get around other people that like people do coaching calls with me, like, hey, man, like, is this normal? I'm like, hell freaking yeah. Yeah, it's 70 hours a week. Yeah, it sucks. That's called the spring rush, man. I'm like, work harder, lose more sleep. Well, I didn't. That's a great call to get, right? So, and I'm not saying like work your guts out and lose your family. I'm not saying work your guts out and all this other stuff. There's balance and counterbalance is what I call it. But at the end of the day, like these skyscrapers, man, they didn't build themselves. Right? The railroads, they didn't build themselves. The concrete highways that we're all driving across from the highways and byways, they didn't build themselves. These beautiful, ships that cross the street, the seas, and these cruise ships that navigate the Caribbean, they didn't build themselves. It was hard work, hard freaking work, right? People went to the moon. They're launching satellites. They're doing, all these great things and great achievements are done by people who are just working hard. And nobody cares why it didn't happen. They only will give you the praise and reward and the recognition once the job's done. It's just funny how that works. But nobody cared that I was working so hard on my YouTube channel. A couple people comment, hey, you got some dark circles, but they were consuming the content, channel was growing. That's how it worked, man. Nobody cared if I did or didn't have a video, but I did. Nobody cared if I grew 10 clients this month or this year, or we had sales up, or revenues was up, or profits were up, or profits were down. But you know what? My wife did. If we had more money in the bank versus less money in the bank, like she knew, I knew. All right. So, Andrew, just to answer your question there it is for an hour and 15 minutes, how this works. But my point is you got to make a commitment, a reasonable commitment that you can actually accomplish whatever it is. And sometimes you don't even know if you can, but you got to do it no matter whatever it takes. And so I'm not the standard. I'm just telling you guys straight up. I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I'm just trying to maybe have some empathy here, saying I'm with you guys. I'm doing the same stuff you guys are doing day in, day out. I always wonder like if anybody else is thinking this stuff with me. And then I listen to certain people that I get fed from. And I'm like, dude, we are winning. We are kicking butt. We are crushing it. We are doing good work here. And I get around other people who are average and like, man, like, they're talking about how to get more days off or how to like get PTO or like, must be nice. And I'm like, must be nice. Yeah. Must be nice to have, 24 days off in a year PTO. I said, I don't think I've taken 24 days off in the last 15 years combined. You know what I mean? Like, and you know what? My life is starting to show that we are getting the rewards. We are getting the benefits. We are getting the blessings. And you know what? For me and my wife, that was our commitment. That's what we wanted to do. So, all right, guys. Well, that's where I'm going to button it up right here. Appreciate you guys listening. This is a little bit of heavier kind of a podcast, but I just care about you guys so much. I just want you guys to win. I say this all the time in podcasts. I just want you guys to win. I want you to win so bad. Because you know what? My life has been changed. Thought process is what changed my life. It wasn't the mowing. It wasn't what mower, what trimmer, what blower, although that helps. It was just having a commitment, man, to stop being weak. Stop letting myself get away with stuff. Stop letting myself lower the standards. Stop letting myself negotiate the price of success. If that makes sense. So, all right, that's what I got for you guys. Appreciate you. Love you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you.
Hey, it's Marty, and I've been in the communications business for a long time. And our dirty little secret, well, among several secrets, is that we're just not very good at truly communicating.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Do you feel that way about your communication with clients? That it's just not as strong as it should be? That is why Brian has the Growing Your Business with Customizable Newsletters course over at LaunchpreneurAcademy.com. This is an opportunity to increase sales through better communication.
Help me! Help me!
Every month you're invoicing and billing, and that is the perfect time to share new and exciting information with your customers.
Check this out. I'm sending you some email.
Monthly email newsletters are a powerful way to educate, inform, upsell, and just keep the overall atmosphere of your business in tip-top shape.
Wow.
Get started today at lawentrepreneuracademy.com, and that link is on your podcast app.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.